Where are you from? I could say India, but it's always been a difficult question to answer personally. Not because my background is complicated, but because I just never had one answer. The other day, I had to introduce myself to a new group of people my age. They were exchanging hometowns: Kerala, Mumbai, Chennai, and I stood there thinking, should I use my father's hometown or my mother's? Probably my birthplace, Mumbai. But for some reason, it was a struggle to answer a simple question like this. So, I gave up and answered Mumbai. Turning 16 made me realize that by figuring out my roots, I could perhaps understand the influences that define me a lot better. And so, though I was never really interested in the past, educating myself was the first step I took to truly understand the history that shaped my present identity. To start off, I researched about my father's hometown, Goa, which on the surface level is known for its beautiful beaches. But it's so much more than that. So, allow me to give you a short history lesson on a place full of culture and tradition. More than 500 years ago, Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama became the first European to travel from Europe to Asia by sea. He was a relentless nobleman who was intrigued by Goa's extensive harbor and sailing connections. And so, he worked to make Goa Portugal's very own naval base, which then became an opening for trade and commerce between Portugal, Asia, and even Africa. Da Gama then triggered the Portuguese colonial rule, which lasted 4.5 centuries until 1961. Goa is now an independent state of India with strong Western connections. It's a mixture of city life in the north with winding roads lined by trees in the south. So, obviously, Portugal left a lasting impression on Goa in more ways than I can count. In particular, the Goan architecture I always found myself marveling over reflected Western elements in the large verandas with grand steps, as well as regional elements in the terracotta roof tiles from neighboring cities such as Mangalore. The Portuguese also reflected their value for Christianity in Goan churches. These beliefs have now become adopted into Goan culture and have influenced my beliefs and attitudes. This is especially obvious during the festival season. I remember the meals during Christmas the best, bringing people together for good food in our family home. The cuisine I so dearly cherish was the result of a revolutionized Goa. The Portuguese returned ingredients such as okra, eggplant, chili peppers, among many others that have now transformed traditional dishes. Sorpotel, one of my favorites, is a meat dish that is enjoyed at every gathering. The desserts, on the other hand, bibinka and serradura, are two sweet goodies that were introduced to Goa along with Portuguese cooking techniques that are still used to this day. And similar to the food, music brought life to celebrations. You see that girl on stage? That girl grew up surrounded by music. That girl is also me. Music is an indispensable piece of my culture and has allowed me to communicate with the world in my favorite way, singing. However, I also had to communicate with my multilingual family by understanding numerous languages. My great-grandfather learned Portuguese in school as it was implemented into the education system, as well as the native language Konkani. My parents, on the other hand, learned Konkani and Kannada, two very different languages that I understood not much of, which is why I've been inspired to self-study not only my mother tongue, but Portuguese as well. My surname, Viegas, is a big part of my identity, like these languages. People could never tie my name to its origin correctly, myself included, as I assumed it was going. However, during the colonial rule, the Portuguese gave the Coens Catholic names after the introduction to Christianity, which is why I'm a Viegas, since this is a tiny piece of history my great-grandfather brought to the future. Having said all of this, as much as Goa played a huge role in shaping my experiences, Mangalore, my mother's hometown, equally affected the personality and mindset I continue to carry today. Mangalore is a place I've spent most of my childhood, making memories with family. Picture this. You're at your grandparents' home, sinking into the couch, taking in the warm, sugary smells from the kitchen. Would you like some cake? Your grandmother questions with that all-knowing smile as you sheepishly take a slice. That is what my family is about. They've created an overwhelming feeling of love that I enjoy being welcomed to every summer and sharing with the ones I care about. These experiences have turned my house into a blend of heritage and tradition that have now become my most honored strengths. My ancestors have enabled me to travel the world and experience the cultural hybridity I am privileged to inherit. I'm now open to participating in different cultures, sharing my own and keeping traditions alive. And in doing so, I've learned to navigate ambiguity whilst embracing complexity. Recently, I traveled to Portugal. Not for the first time, but interestingly enough, without the feeling of diaspora. I was able to appreciate the music, cuisine, language, and architecture that made up so much of the culture I'm familiar with today. I wasn't walking blind anymore. Understanding my past has uncovered a map that has shown me my beginnings and my journeys to come. It's given me the confidence to not only live with authenticity, but more than that, understand the history that's, although tangled, opened up a new world. The truth is, if you were to ask me once more, where are you from? I'd still be piecing it together. However, I believe that the past has made it easier for me, and perhaps it will for you too. By discovering the strengths that have been there all along, understanding where we come from unleashes the strength to give us the power to shape who we are meant to be. So, what's your story? Thank you.